Let's look at an example of how a conflict can be de-escalated and resolved using nonviolence. One day in the spring of 2017, a group of a few thousand people gathered in downtown San Jose to show their support for science and to oppose the cuts in funding that the government had imposed on organizations like the Environmental Protection Agency. After gathering at City Hall, the demonstrators marched to a rally that was scheduled to take place in a nearby park. Now, along the parade route, the organizers of the march had stationed a group of musicians who were singing and playing to try to get the people into the right frame of mind for the rally. But as the marchers passed by, something unexpected happened. A bunch of them decided to stop and listen to the music. Before long, the crowd was big enough to be blocking the intersection. And people who wanted to continue marching were forced to go around this little knot of spectators, blocking traffic and even spilling out onto a nearby train track. As more and more people stopped to listen to the band, a San Jose police officer pulled up on his motorcycle. He demanded that the musicians needed to stop playing immediately and move on to some other location, explaining that they were obstructing traffic and creating a dangerous situation. Now, at first, the musicians pushed back, explaining that the march organizers had told them to set up at this particular intersection and that there was no place else for them to go. But the officer insisted that they had to move. After all, his job was to keep the marchers safe, and the musicians were making that impossible. Now, as this conflict began to escalate, one of the musicians interrupted and asked the policeman if it would be okay if they performed just one more song. They promised that they would move when it was over. Looking a little suspicious, the officer agreed and then stationed himself on his motorcycle on the other side of the street, watching to make sure that the band did indeed stop as they had promised after this final number. You might be familiar with the song that the band decided to sing. It's an old spiritual called "This Little Light of Mine." When it was time for them to start singing the second verse of the song, one of them stepped up to the mic with a new set of lyrics that went like this.
Marching right through the intersection. Don't stop and go, I keep marching through that intersection. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
In a matter of moments, the crowd that had been blocking traffic got the message and began to break up, moving down the sidewalk and echoing the refrain, "Got to keep on marching." When the song was over, instead of packing up, the band simply continued singing and playing for another hour. Meanwhile, across the street, the police officer was watching what was going on, and he decided that the best thing to do was to just let them play. And so, the musicians got what they wanted, and the police got what they wanted. People could pass without blocking traffic. When the march was all over, the police officer returned to the band to thank them for helping him out with the crowd control, although he did say that he still had one question. Looking at the singer, he asked pointedly, "Did you make that up?"